second being, do we support these kind of killings? No, of course not. I'm not part of support a group of terrorism, any kind of terrorism. But in this particular case, I think what is happening is recently Nigeria was redesignated as a country of particular concern. And let me tell you about this USCIRF and their agenda. And they have been trying to make sure India is also designated as a country of particular concern. If you remember, for quite some time, they have been, the Christian groups and the Muslim groups of India has been targeting American institutions and making sure that India is designated as a CPC. Now, America can literally go and bomb and target and do a military action on any country, justifying slaughter and targeting innocent people, and that's not something that I think is the right direction for the country like America. And if you see President Trump's communication, it's absolutely I don't even know how to describe it in a mild manner. It's a constant way of boasting and his posture of supremacy as a commander of chief. I'm making a decision, go and literally seize the oil tanker from Venezuela, target Nigeria, and tell South Africa is the next country to be targeted. All kinds of things that we are seeing at this point of time is not conducive for a peaceful world. And I think Donald Trump is actually causing more damage at this point of time than he's trying to bring peace. This is a farce.
All right, Purnima, please stay on with me. I'll come back to you. Now, meanwhile, the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has just released an official statement backing the Christmas Day strikes. Nigerian authorities remain engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States of America, in addressing the persistent threat of terrorism and violent extremism. This has led to precision hits on terrorist targets in Nigeria by airstrikes in the northwest. The statement emphasized the partnership is built on mutual respect for sovereignty and shared commitment to regional and global security. Nigeria made clear this isn't a one-sided American intervention. The federal government continues to work closely with its partners through established democratic and security channels to weaken terrorist networks, disrupt their financing and logistics, and prevent cross-border threats. They also push back on any framing that this is only about Christians. Terrorist violence in any form, whether directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and to international peace and security. All right, now, of course, I have with me Brigadier Sanjay Khanna, former diplomat. Brigadier Khanna, now, you've, of course, heard Purnima Nath, the Republican leader, and also Professor Emmanuel. What would you like to say on their comments?
Well, both of them have assessed the situation in Nigeria well. Especially Mr. Emmanuel, as I can see that he belongs to Nigeria. I'm not very sure of Ms. Purnima. Ma'am, are you also stationed in Nigeria? Okay, so both of them have a first-hand view of before the strike, as well as now they will get a first-hand view after the strike. So in their assessment, both of them are correct. And Ms. Purnima, she is very categorically stated, what we all in India also feel, that Trump is a big mouth. He tries, like I already mentioned, that he feels that he is the savior of the world, and that is how he behaves. Very rightly, she brought out that wherever the Americans want to interfere, they go ahead and do it. Be it Iran, be it earlier it was Iran, Iraq when it existed, in Libya, you name it. The Americans have always done this. to show that they're the big daddy. But like I said, that they will carry out these strikes only on an organization they feel that is capable of harming them, which has been proved in the past. And so the Nigerian government, what Mr. Ayodhya said, will not directly get involved in these strikes. They got it done through the Americans. Yes, the Nigerian government did request the Americans to do it, but the Nigerian forces would not get directly involved, eliminating the terrorists in their country, because they already have so many things up their sleeve that they can't get into confrontation with the various terrorist organizations that exist in Nigeria. And for that, the American presence has been there, though the Americans, there's no foot on ground, there are no soldiers, American soldiers in Nigeria. But the Americans have been providing them, intelligence and surveillance support against the terrorist organization. They carry out drone surveillance, and mind you that these drones are sent from the borders across Nigeria into Nigeria. So the Americans are not, like I said, they do not have boots on ground, and they're not operating in Nigeria, but from outside Nigeria. So drone surveillance is provided, then training for counter terrorism and counter terrorist activities is provided to the Nigerian forces. Then intel sharing. The Like I said, it is the Nigerians who have the foot on ground. They provide the on ground intelligence to the Americans, and the Americans provide satellite imagery, drone imagery, and various mappings that they do. They provide to the Nigerian government. So it is intel sharing which goes on between the two countries. A lot of data and detail on Boko Haram and ISIS is constantly compiled by the Americans, and it is provided not only to Nigeria but to other African nations as well. So, seeing what has happened, though there are two counter views, Ms. Purnima does not agree with what Trump has gone ahead and done against the terrorists in Nigeria, that is against the ISIS. But then she has her own reasons to state that. Back to you, Purnima.
All right, I have Professor Emmanuel with me. He's, of course, live from Nigeria. Now, Professor Emmanuel, we've been discussing a few things with Brigadier Sanjay Khanna, who's a former diplomat, and Purnima Nath, who's a Republican leader. My question to you, of course, is about the fact that do you really think that Trump is actually concerned about terrorism in Nigeria, or do you just think it's optics? Because as we've been discussing, Trump does claim to be the savior of the world and always takes credit for a lot of things.
Well, it's difficult to see Trump from that potential statement or the declaration of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. It rattled the Nigerian government, and there were massive diplomatic missions to the United States to ensure that Nigeria's image is not affected by that declaration, and there were moves, to convince Congress about the situation in Nigeria. The government position was that there was no genocide, and they wanted that status given to Nigeria to be withdrawn. Then, secondly, we also know that a few weeks ago, Donald Trump announced some countries where that have been placed under restriction in terms of migration to the United States or even visits to the United States. And Nigeria was adversely affected. Many Nigerians are apprehensive about even their visa status for those who already have visa to visit the United States. And people have asked the question, how can you say you care about Nigeria when you want to prevent Nigerians from visiting the United States? So I think that the release by the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Nigeria is probably much more damage control statement than an embrace of the so-called partnership that have been stated in that document. Nigerians have an ambivalent relationship with the United States right now. They don't think that the United States cares so much about Nigeria. And when you look at the national security policy that have just been, strategy that have just been released by the Trump administration, and you look at the last session, I think paragraph E or F, that looked at Africa, the situation, the relationship is that is envisaged in that document is highly transactional. It's talking about Americans' interests in Africa in terms of the resources that are available there, especially in terms of the rare earth minerals. So there's really no clear commitment in terms of democratic values, in terms of peace, and so on and so forth. So we don't see Trump as a messiah who is coming to help with the situation in Nigeria. I think that the current strike is just making the optics. It's not likely to go too far. And I also suspect that the strike must have been operated from their American base in Ghana, because their base in Niger has recently been moved as a result of the current situation in Niger, where the military has taken over and they have more sympathy towards Russia rather than the West. So very clearly, Nigerians will not see Trump as the messiah. But of course, those who have been victims of ISIS, ISWAP, and Boko Haram in the North Central, especially, and in the North East, might find solace in the strike to stem the taxmen who have made life very miserable in many villages and settlements within the North Central and the northeastern part of Nigeria.
All right, Professor Manuel. Now I'll go across to Purnima Nath, of course, the Republican leader, who's also joining me. Now, Ms. Nath, my question to you is that now, whatever is happening, how do you see this progressing? And do you think this could pull the United States into a deeper conflict in the continent?
Thank you so much for such a wonderful question. I think this is exactly we must discuss. Remember, recently Trump has been communicating about Rwanda and DR Congo. But I think there is an angle that we're not discussing. That's the mineral angle, the angle of untapped minerals that actually Nigeria has. There are reports that Nigeria actually almost have 1 trillion, 700 billion to 1 trillion untapped resources. And that could be one of the angle. And Nigeria has, in the continent, Nigeria is the largest GDP and also the most number of human capital, and combining with the minerals that Nigeria currently has in terms of potential, I think this is an angle that Donald Trump and his administration is looking at. Because if you connect the dot to Venezuela, obviously they didn't talk about Venezuelan oil. They targeted Venezuela based on or the pretext of drug boats and narco terrorists. Whether it's a terrorism or criminality didn't matter. That's exactly why I think there is a mineral angle. This is exactly why America went into invading Iraq for Iraqi oil and gold, Afghanistan for the minerals. Now even talking about Balochistan, the minerals from Balochistan area. And this is why the closeness that we see with President Trump and Pakistani government. And this is concerning because I think America today is utilizing all kinds of tactics to target different countries, continent, and label that differently, just like they went with WMD, the weapons of mass destruction against Iraq. And whether it's Iraq or Syria or Iran or Libya, really doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, it's just a pretext, and minerals a part of it. Geopolitical context is important, and I think America and in terms of when it comes to MAGA base and to Trump, he wants to project and show that he is the messiah and savior of the world, and that's exactly why he keeps on talking about India Pakistan constantly. And I've told about it in your show as well, that I don't think President Trump is going to stop. The communication has to come from Modi and Jaishankar, as well as from the top media houses, that he needs to stop this. And there was no external intervention from President Trump to stop India Pakistan. And I think there is a bigger angle that we're not talking about at this point of time, and this is dangerous.
Professor Emmanuel, Purnima Nath and Brigadier Sanjay Khanna, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to all of you today. Thank you for joining me on NewsX. And with that, viewers, we're slipping into a short commercial break. I'll see you on the other side.